you can host the best backyard barbecue. When you find a professional on Angie to make your backyard the best around. Connect with skilled professionals to get all your home projects done well. Inside to outside, repairs to renovations. Get started on the Angie app or visit Angie.com today. You can do this when you Angie that.
Looking for a job is lonely. Endless searching, phone calls that go nowhere, applications that vanish into thin air. What if you could link with dozens of local companies who are hiring right now with just one connection? That's Express Employment Professionals. Find us at expresspros.com. One connection, endless opportunities, and no fees ever for job seekers. Express Employment Professionals. expresspros.com.
Angie's List is now Angie, and we've heard a lot of theories about why.
I thought it was an eco move. Fewer words, less paper.
No, it was so you could say it faster.
No, it's to be more iconic.
Must be a tech thing.
But those aren't quite right. It's because now you can compare upfront prices, book a service instantly, and even get your project handled from start to finish.
Sounds easy.
It is, and it makes us so much more than just a list. Get started at Angie.com. That's ANGI, or download the app today.
It's time. It's time. Time to get in the zone. Time to get in the zone with the 49ers Web Zone. This is the No Huddle Podcast with Al and Brian.
Now, what I think the most polarized pick was, and the pick that I'm going to have to, he's going to have to prove some stuff to me, because again, I'm not going to pretend I sit and watch all these Florida State games, and I'm overly familiar with everything Renardo.
Tatum Bethune.
But yeah, he was Green was a
Renardo Green
reach from what a lot of people did him in the fourth round. And I think in watching him, it seems like he plays very physical. I worry at this level that he's going to get called for a lot of holding penalties. He seems to use his hands a lot. Now, look, the Niners certainly know more than I do. But the other thing that was a little bit curious about this to me, so the Niners traded back one spot with the Chiefs, right, for this? And two things happened here that had me a little bit like, the first was that a player they really liked, Roger Rosengarten, was taken by the Ravens, who draft really fucking well all the time. And I don't know if the Niners were hoping he was going to fall to them. I don't know if they had no interest in him. I saw that, and I'm like, why didn't you trade up a couple spots? Why that dude is there? And I thought as it was falling, okay, all right, it's looking this way, right? It's looking this way, right? They're going to take Rosengart. And then when they didn't, I was kind of pissed about that. And then they trade back, and obviously they had no interest in Kingsley Sumatea at all.
Sure,
who the Chiefs traded up, right? Who they literally traded out of that pick so the Chiefs can take him. And note to NFL teams, please stop trading with the Chiefs, please. Even if they can help, just don't. Just hang up the phone, please.
Yeah,
please. But they trade,
especially if they're beating you,
right? Like the Bills and the Niners, you're the two teams. Maybe you don't trade with them,
right?
Just So you have to look at it. If these two guys are starting right tackles for the next 10 years, and they might be because they went to really good franchises to know what they're doing, and the Niners reached on a corner in Renardo Green, who's, I don't know, a decent nickel guy, or he's just not very good. I circle that pick for a long time, but we don't know that. And again, everything right now, I say benefit of the doubt, because obviously the regime has earned it. But with Green, I do think you're going to check off another box where I don't think they're going to re-sign both Ward and Lenore. So they drafted him in the second round. You would hope so, with the anticipation that he's another starter in 2025. So that's two. But I look at that pick. I think that's the most polarizing pick. And I know a lot of people who are very smart really like him. So again, I'm not saying I watched all this film, and just from what I've read and the people that watched and the people that were taken before him, that's a name to circle, because that could be the pick in this draft where you look back in 5 years and you'd be like, what was going on there?
Well, and when you factor in again the consensus big board, it's also the biggest reach when it comes to the consensus big board, where he was selected at 64 and consensus big board had him at 110. But here's one thing that I saw, and Football Insight at fball_ins tweeted this out March 27th. So again, pre-draft, pre-whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It was yards per coverage snap allowed of the round, the cornerbacks that were drafted in the first 2 rounds. And so it's charted on the x-axis. The horizontal axis is yards per coverage snap allowed in zone coverage, and yards per snap allowed in man coverage. And so the way that it's broken into 4 quadrants, the better players are in the top right quadrant, the worst players in the bottom left quadrant. And when it comes to those players, the corners that were drafted within the first 2 rounds that are in that upper right corner are Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Kamari Lassiter, Nate Wiggins, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Jerrion Jones. Cam Hart is like right on the border. He's actually on a line. And Kyrie Jackson from Oregon. The other guy that's in there is Renardo Green. Renardo Green allowed less than 0.8 yards per coverage snap allowed in zone coverage, and less than 0.8 yards per coverage snap allowed in man coverage. So he was consistent across zone and man. In fact, he when you look at it visually, he was better than Wiggins, McKinstry, Jerrion Jones. He was better in zone coverage than Quinyon Mitchell, better in zone coverage than Cooper DeJean, better in zone coverage than Kamari Lassiter. Those guys were better in man coverage than Renardo Green. But he is a press man corner. Like, that is his specialty. And the other thing is, he absolutely put Malik Neighbors in hell when he played Malik Neighbors in week 1. In fact, Malik Neighbors' numbers when covered by Renardo Green were 2 catches for 6 yards. That was it. So absolutely shut Malik Neighbors down, who went 6 overall to the Giants. So, his technique does need to get better, because he will get called for some holding penalties and some PI penalties. But I think he's not ideal size, right? He's like 5'11", which is also interesting to me, because this team used to pretty much not even look at corners that were under 6 feet tall. It was that whole Seattle model, right, where you want tall corners for press man specifically, but also in zone coverage. And so they've kind of moved away from that. But I think you could argue it's a reach pick, but again, once they pick at 64, they're not picking again until 94. Theoretically, based on the consensus big board, Green should have been there, but again, you can't guarantee that, and you can't guarantee that you can trade up. Right. You can't guarantee any of that. And so, again, if he is the highest player on your board, and that's where and I think that's what I feel like happened in this draft, is that the 49ers were comfortable taking best player available, regardless of what we fans think. Like, you need a tackle, you need this, you need that, you need whatever. They're like, we're going to take, because we've filled our roster already. We've got starters at every position that we're comfortable with. We're taking best player available. And they did that. And I think, you got to salute them for that.
Yeah, and this looks like, again, if everything goes the way they expect it to, that he's going to be starting in 2025. So that's 2 starters, say first 2 picks.
Yep.
So far, so good in terms of what we're thinking here. And then in round 3, they traded up for Dominic Puni, right? To 86.
They did. They did.
Which I really like this pick. So
yes,
you spent 2 years at Kansas, and he is a versatile O-lineman. He played tackle there, but he projects inside. They announced him as a guard. He plays center too. Which is, again, we'll see where the Niners end up taking him. But another theme with the O-lineman they took, this guy is a good run blocker. He's a terrific pass blocker. He didn't give up a sack in 2 years starting
2 years
at Kansas. Yep. So again,
at left tackle.
Pick, which is, how impressive is that? So I love the pick as you're trying to fortify, like you said, Brock Purdy, right? This is another build around Purdy pick. If you can move him inside, you get this mountain of a guy inside, can run block, pass block. You're building around Purdy. You're strengthening the middle. I really, really like this pick. I like that he's versatile. Thought it was a very good line pick, where I was like, with the corner pick, I'm kind of like, I don't know. We'll see. I was like, yes, good job here. I really thought it was a solid pick for the Niners.
When you're worried about underarm sweat and odor, it can be distracting. Like this. Or this. Or even this. It's time to silence those distractions with a spray of powerful Dove Men Plus Care Antiperspirant. Featuring our 72-hour protection and soothing 1/4 moisturizing cream. Because when you forget about your underarms, you can focus on being unforgettable. Dove Men. Forgettable underarms, unforgettable you.
Yeah, and I saw footage of him from the Senior Bowl in one-on-one reps with Byron Murphy, the defensive tackle that the Seahawks selected at pick 16. Absolutely owned him. Absolutely owned Byron Murphy. And Byron Murphy is an excellent player. And then not only that, but one of the things so the 49ers drafted Dominic Pooney in the 3rd round. They drafted Jarrett Kingston in the 6th round. And then they brought in Drake Nugent, the center from Michigan, as an undrafted free agent. All 3 of them hit the elusive 4.47 or less in the short shuttle, right? So they are their agility grades are elite. Agile dudes. In fact, Drake Nugent, Jarrett Kingston, his relative athletic score, again, the guard out of USC that they drafted in the 6th round, his relative athletic score is 9.92, which is 13th out of 1,583 guards from 1987 to 2024. So he's an elite athlete at the position. Pooney is an 8.16, which is still high, still good. 292 out of 1583. So again, still top 25%. A little bit better than that. But the other thing that I thought was interesting with Pooney is that we know what they look for in offensive linemen, and it's versatility. And like you said, he has 5 position versatility. He never played center, but people think that he could play there. And to me, like you said, they went Renardo Green, right? And with their first 2 picks, it feels like they addressed what they feel like is the 2 things that cost them in the Super Bowl. And that is separation and coverage, right? And so they get a separator and they get a corner, right? To beef up their coverage units. And then like on offense, like I said, it's building with Brock Purdy in mind. And I think that's why they drafted 2 guards. And we've talked about it before. Do you take the Saints approach with Drew Brees and fortify the middle for your short quarterback? It certainly seems like they think that's the right thing to do, because you've got Pooney and you've got Kingston, but then you've also got Feliciano you brought back, and you've got Aaron Banks. And so these are probably replacements for one or both of those guys, depending on whether they want to pay Banks or not. But Pooney also has a mean streak, but you can see him. There's film of him and the way that he gets to the second level and just punishes dudes. I guarantee Kyle Shanahan loved it. So yeah, another pick that I thought was awesome. They picked him at 86. Consensus big board was 78. So that's a value there. For them. So yeah.
And looks like, again, somebody else. Let's check that starter box, right? We expect him in 2025 that he's at least probably one of the 2 guards. So again, I like,
and possibly push McKivitz if that's what they want to try, right? There is that possibility. Whether or not they put him at tackle, we don't know. But there is that possibility, because all you want is your 5 best out there. So,
right. See where people project, see what they look like when they get out there. So this is another pick that I really liked, and I'm not saying Malik Mustafa is going to end up being Troy Polamalu or anything like that, but the Niners, I think, are going to have a lot of 3 safety looks this year. They just right now, with the way, if Greenlaw is not healthy, I can see that happening, or even if they want to ease him back, maybe he's a guy that can help with that. He plays close to the line of scrimmage. Also, the floor with him is just a really good special teams player, like a core special teams dude. Right. He could end up being a really, really good special teams
like
player.
George
Odom. I was going to say, so if you drafted another George Odom in the 4th round, it's a good pick. You have a core special teams guy, somebody who could be a backup safety, and we'll see in time if he's somebody that can replace Hufanga. Again, you don't know until these guys get out there, but who knows? But I liked, had interest in a safety. I liked that this guy, even if he's not somebody who can replace Hufanga, boom, you got a special teamer. I thought it was another good pick. He's a hard hitter, type of mentality that's going to fit right in with the Niners in this defense. I thought it was another really solid pick for him. A mid-round type guy.
Yeah, and he just flies around the field. I love it. You watch film, you watch any clips of him, and he is just sideline to sideline, and just when he can come downhill, he is punishing. He's punishing players as he tackles them. And not only that, again, like I said, I was watching Guy Haberman's solo podcast, and he had on somebody who covered the Demon Deacons. And one of the things he said is, regardless of the athletic profile, which is still nice, again, relative athletic score of 9.39, just 68th out of 1,093 free safeties. So again, an athletic kid. But regardless of the athletic profile, just like teach tape when it comes to tackling. And it does not miss tackles. So again, something that I think this team hurt this team last year.
100%
missed tackles. And so again, addressing a shortcoming of this team with these draft picks. And you talked about floors, right? That was the other theme that I thought about this draft class was it may not be a draft class with like sky high ceiling, but it's a draft class with a really high floor. Like all these players have a really high floor, right? They're starting out at a competent level and they might not ascend to superstar level. I think Pearsall could. I think Mustafa could. I think Guerendo, who we'll talk about in a little bit, could, right? But for the most part, the floor is high enough where, again, you're getting players that are not just depth pieces for the future, but depth pieces for now. And that's one of the things that I loved about it. And Mustafa is just that, because again, we don't know. We have no idea what is going to happen with Talanoa Hufanga. You know, we've talked about it before. He was limited athletically coming in, which is why he was a 5th round pick. And then he tore his ACL. And it's like, I mean, I don't know that they anticipate him being a contributor at all based on that fear alone. And so you've got Jair Brown, you've got Malik Mustafa, you've got Taylor Hawkins, you've got George Odom. I still think they could bring Justin Simmons in. He's out there. You know, I don't think Talanoa Hufanga should keep you from bringing Simmons in if it works for you, especially with the financials. But yeah, another pick. And again, picked him at 124. His consensus big board 124. So right on the money.
Right on the money there.
Yep.
And then so the running back picks always have to worry you because of what we've seen with Trey Sermon and with TDP. And with Joe Williams. In this running back, it was probably the worst kept secret in the world that the Niners really liked him because Tony Pauline tweeted it out and then deleted it, which tells you that the Niners were probably like, get that shit off social media right now because we like this guy.
They traded up to get him.
Like the Cowboys with Jonathan Brooks, right? Or whatever that running back's name is. Like Jerry Jones was like, oh my God, love him so much. And then they end up losing out on him. But yeah, they trade picks 173 and 176 to move up to get this running back, guys. Dude runs a 4.33, right? I'm just fast.
At 221 pounds.
You think like a Raheem Mostert, right? That's kind of what came to mind for me. And 6.1 yards per carry last year. I don't know if I said that or not. Yeah. But it was only really 1 year of production for him. So he really only had the one good year.
Battled injuries.
Is that what kind of held him back? Is the injuries?
Yeah. So he was initially at Wisconsin, battled injuries for 3 years at Wisconsin, and then transferred to Louisville.
So we'll see. The Niners have a really good number 2 running back now who battles injuries. We'll see if he's somebody that can come in. Odds are probably, drafted free agent will be better because that's just the way the Niners roll. They draft somebody and end up playing Matt Breida or Jordan Mason or somebody. But we'll see. Again, it's exciting when you get somebody that fast with Kyle. They obviously see something in him. They obviously carved out a role for him or think they're going to be able to carve out a role for him. He's obviously, unless he ends up going the Joe Williams way, I mean, we've seen it before. But it looks like he's going to have a role on this team. You don't trade up for a running back to not have him make the team unless he's a complete disaster. So either Mitchell or Mason probably not going to be around, but this guy looks like he's going to be RB2. I don't know if he'll ever be a starter. We'll see. Yeah. Again, if McCaffrey really only has 1 year left, but he could at least they need to give McCaffrey a little bit of a rest here during the season, a little bit more. Keep him ready for later. So if this is somebody that can come in and you're comfortable giving him 5 to 6 touches a game, I think you can go ahead and do that. But the running backs again, I got to see it, man. But we'll see how it goes. It is exciting though that they found somebody that fast that they like.
And in 2024, I think where he carves out his role is as kick returner. We talked about we talked about kick returns are back, right? With these new rules, there are going to be games that are swung by kick returns.
And you can
no
get
way
creative with it.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And so you've got Isaac Guerendo now 4.33. You've got Jacob Cowing, right? We kind of passed over him. We talked about him a little bit. He was their other fourth round pick.
We'll get to him next.
Wide receiver out of Arizona. But you've got Guerendo and Cowing and Pearsall who could return kicks. And then you've also got Debo. You've also got Debo who could be an absolute weapon in kick returns. So I think the other thing I think is a theme of this with Pearsall, Green, Mustafa, Guerendo, Cowing. You've also upgraded your special teams, your coverage units, and your return units. And I think that's another important aspect of this draft to take a look at is, overall picture. You've also gotten better on special teams, which is important.
What happened in the Super Bowl with special teams? Did that work out okay? It did not.
It did not.
I think that was on Kyle's mind.
I'm sure.
Sounds like it was,
sure.
Right?
Yeah.
The things that happened in that game, some of the stuff with the interior, with the receivers not separating, with the shit show that was special teams, and there really were some shit show things there. Again, it was a -8 points for them on special teams. It was like they were like, okay, some of those things were like, we know what our weaknesses are, and they went right out and attacked those weaknesses. So I respect that. Even though you're pissing off or maybe walking away for some really big names that got you really close, saying, well, this is where we think we can get better, even though we do have some of these big names. So that's not always easy to take that step, but it looks like they're doing that.